Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Winners at War, Week 11.
This episode is titled, This is Extortion. That was spoken by Tony. It was quite emphatic at the time. Wow, what an episode, huh?
That was beautiful.
Yeah, it kicks off on night 25 back at the Koru camp. Well, not everybody's back, just Jeremy, because he got to play that safety without power. And he's anxious. He gets the fire stoked and going, and he's just waiting to find out what happened. That's the question running through his head.
Nobody's anxious to tell him, though.
No, that was interesting how they were stonewalling him. He foiled their plans. Tyson is gone, and Ben tells us in a quick confessional after they refused to answer his questions that they were gunning for Jeremy. So he was exactly correct in executing the safety without power and leaving tribal council. Good on him. And when he walked out, they had to get a new plan, Ben tells us. But from here on out, they're sticking with Jeremy as their enemy number one.
And Ben believes his alliance of 5 is going to stay strong to the end. I thought, uh-oh.
What'd you think when Jeremy was trying to corner Ben a little bit? He asked him, well, who's next now that Tyson's gone? Because this is all about Operation Meat Shield.
Jeremy knew the answer to that. It's still him.
Ben did too. Ben said you. And Jeremy was trying to make him think it was Ben that would be next. But Ben wasn't having any of that.
I think he was wanting to point out that, well, you're a big target too, you know. And I thought,
it was a pretty
Jeremy,
weak play.
Yeah, he sees through that.
Ben shut it down.
Especially not right then, you know, right after that night.
Right. It's almost like he's rubbing it in their face there a bit. In any case, Operation Meat Shield is now officially a failure. They don't got Tyson protecting them, so that's where that sits. And we see Kim and Michele talking, and they're basically having a discussion about what a mess this is that they're in. Michele says when you're left out, that equals being on the bottom. Me, Kim, Jeremy, Denise will be picked off one by one, she says.
Okay, day 26.
We get a 3-day cycle with that bonus night 25 return from tribal council. So we got 26, cool. 27, 28. Yep, Tony is up early. The sun is not up. They're definitely using the low light cameras on him.
And so far he's done what his wife told him. Mm-hmm. He's been patient. He's been laying low, not running out and looking for idols and making everybody paranoid. But now
that time is over.
He's already told the wife, I did what you said. Yeah. Now he can jump in there and do what
he leash now.
Really wanted to now. So he's going to look for idols before anyone is up.
So we thought. Good old I'm here to butt in Nick shows up. They've had a running joke about Nick butting in on things there, different conversations, and Nick wakes up and follows him out.
Well, yeah, and he acts like, where are we going to look now? He knew exactly what he was doing.
Sure.
And
Tony tells us in a confessional that Nick is cramping his style, so he sends him to go search the well where Tony's already searched, but he didn't tell Nick that. Looking, bingo. Tony, first time really hunting, according to him.
Move a rock, and there it is, right up next to the tree.
Finds a hidden immunity idol just like that. Okay, back at camp there on day 27, we're informed that Sarah Lucina is a creative fashionista.
Yes, she's not just smart and funny.
And all the other complimentary things she said about herself. Yeah, that was good. They have a little fashion show there. Tony doesn't seem to want to sit still for it. He's
Yeah,
saying,
she seems to be annoyed with him anytime he speaks now.
well, to be fair, in this
Well,
case, he
no,
was
he's
being annoying.
I know.
He's like, oh no,
I didn't disagree with it.
my pants will sell faster than any of your stuff.
I was like, okay, Tony.
Tony tells us that he wants to do damage and that he can't go to the end with Jeremy. But he's going to pretend he's on the side with them when he tells us really he's not.
He's undercover.
Mm-hmm.
He's going undercover. He wants Sophie out. Yeah, which was your reasoning for voting for Sophie out this week, was that you thought Tony would want to split her and Sarah up at some point.
Absolutely. Yep.
But I thought it was too soon for that.
Okay. We'll talk more about that.
Okay.
You know who's on to Tony, though, without missing a beat? Kim. She's not buying it at all.
Well, Kim and Denise. But Jeremy and Michele seemed to believe whatever he was selling.
Jeremy says he had a conversation with Tony, and he was
It's a
very,
good one. It's
very
good.
believable, he said.
Good conversation. And then you switch over to Denise and Kim. Kim, the look in her eyes. Well, don't believe him. We don't believe him.
He's a double agent. I know it.
Yeah. Tony's her biggest enemy out there, which is very astute of her.
Yes. Credit to her.
I don't know if he's the biggest, because I don't think Sarah. The reason I put Kim to go was I just thought for sure Sarah was going to go after her again.
Mm-hmm.
Because she seemed so intimidated by her and that she could beat the other women. And so I just thought she was going to target her.
Sounded like a good story.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bounce out to Edge of Extinction for a little bit here on day 27. We see Yule doing some yoga and Adam's contemplating the flag. And in the background, we hear Tyson talking about how some people just don't have the mentalities to handle losing Survivor. But he tells Wendell that he's strong. He's going to be okay. But he declares that Adam is going to have a hard time.
Well, he asked Wendell if he's going to be okay. And Wendell said, yeah, he would.
Lots of folks are out gathering firewood. Two of them, Parv and Natalie, end up stumbling over a clue. Well, Natalie does, and it makes a racket, so Parvati hears it, and she comes over. And they're given a riddle, and it turns out there's an advantage there in their camp under the bed that they're sleeping on, and somehow they got to get everybody out of the camp.
Yeah,
So
it
they're-
took them a while. They walked all the way to the top before they figured it out.
Yeah, but it was good. It was it's funny to watch that exchange, too, because Natalie's saying things. She's making these declarative statements or asking questions, and then a couple beats behind, Parv's basically coming to the same thing. And yes, it's at camp where we rest. Okay. All right, so yeah, they work that out, and then they've got to wait all day. Eventually, the group decides to go watch the sunset, and that gives Natalie a chance. Parvati goes off with them.
They decide because Parvati encourages them.
It's a
Come
purple
and see
color
it.
or
It's
something
beautiful.
she was
Come
saying.
and look at it.
Yep. So Natalie ends up finding the extortion advantage. What an advantage. And I wasn't tracking this
Sweet.
when they were first describing it. I didn't fully understand how it worked until we got clarity when it ends up being delivered. But very powerful. It's the ability to block someone from the immunity challenge and tribal council unless
No
they
vote. Yeah, no
they-
vote at tribal council.
they pay up. So they've got to pay money to be able to compete in the immunity
That
challenge.
was pretty
Tribal
gutsy.
council.
Asking for 6 tokens.
Parvati said they had to stop it, and they needed someone who would stop at nothing and who was chaotic.
Already.
Yes.
So, hello, they were describing Tony.
Camera even cut to Tony right before it went to commercial.
It's like,
Yeah, you could see in that discussion with Natalie and Parvati, Natalie was saying, well, we want to decide if we want to do damage or we want to try to maximize tokens. So that's what they ended up with, is a balance there.
let's see if we can get this many. And if we can, we'll go with the tokens. And if we can't, well, let's pop Tony then.
Either way, they win.
That's right. We get to do something and have a say in the game.
Have an impact.
some kind of impact rather than just sitting out here doing nothing. And Natalie tells us she doesn't have any alliances left.
So she's got no qualms dropping the hammer on someone.
So that tells me if she had pregame alliances, they must be out there too.
Yeah. Or it's been long enough that there is no alliance at this point, given how long
she's been gone
out there.
since, you know.
It's not a factor.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back at Koru camp there on day 28, and evidently the discussion in camp is how Nick has some vampire-like qualities. That was strange.
And they were talking about vampire movies, right, or something.
Well, they're talking about how Nick looked like he could be a vampire, and then they mentioned vampire movies to go along with that.
All righty then.
Then we get Tony
That just says boredom.
running through the jungle there with his red personal bag, and he noticed there was something, a little scroll in there, and it's that extortion advantage.
Yep. They were right. It was
He
a
is
personal bag.
ecstatic.
Oh,
Wasn't he?
that's
He was
just
so
beautiful.
happy. He was like a little kid in a
Couldn't
candy
even
shop.
get through reading it. Oh, extortion. Oh, yes.
Sounds like fun.
And I could never do this in real life. Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and this and this. And oh, I'm going to, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. And then it's like, what? They can't do that. This is mean.
This is against the
terrible.
law. It's awful.
This
They're
isn't right.
extorting me. I don't get to
They
extort
shouldn't
someone.
be able to do that on Survivor. That's illegal.
That was great. Now, to his credit, he was a fantastic storyteller in that
He
confessional,
was.
because he knew how it had played out. But he was
Yeah.
he was replaying that
His
happiness
excitement and his.
at being given the opportunity to extort someone, only to
Yeah.
find out that it was
I
he
said,
that
now
was being extorted.
that's a true storyteller.
Yes.
Because he stayed in the excitement of what he was feeling in that moment, even though he knew as he was reciting it that the ending wasn't what he wanted.
He's in quite the pickle. He only has 3 fire tokens, but he needs 6, and he's got to get 3 more to buy his way out of this so that he can compete in the immunity challenge and won't lose his vote. He's got to come up with 3 more before the immunity challenge, which is quickly approaching.
And who does he go to who's supposed to have quite a few tokens?
Went to Michele, and what did you think of her cover story?
I think it worked.
He bought it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed to.
She said, oh no, I had to spend all 4 of mine. I think that really helped sell it, because he needed 6, and she's like, oh, mine cost 4. Made it more believable somehow so that she could have an advantage in the event that she ever did end up on Edge of Extinction. She would have an advantage.
Insurance.
Yes, an insurance advantage. Anyway, that's not true, but it seemed to work. And then she promptly offered up Jeremy as someone who may have some tokens.
Jeremy has one. Jeremy, well, actually, Jeremy had 2, but
Jeremy has some tokens, she tells Tony. So she even asked Tony for the little scroll that's got the details of the advantage. And Michele
she would go talk to Jeremy.
takes that to Jeremy as cover. And Jeremy offers up one of his tokens.
Yeah. Still needs 2 more.
Tony's in a bit of a bind, so he told us at first he was going to basically get the tokens from his fake alliance, but now he's got to pivot and go with his real alliance.
His real alliance.
So we see him talking to Nick, and Nick, who actually had 3, he coughs up 1.
Do you think he even approached Denise or Kim? Or do you think they had given it away that they didn't believe him?
No, I don't think he had gotten to them. I think he went to these folks pretty much in the order we saw. You never know. It could be a trick of editing, but to answer your question, which is just guessing effectively, I don't think he had gotten that far. He ends up getting one from Nick, and then he reaches out to Ben. Ben, who only had 1, goes ahead and offers it. And I liked your reasoning for how Ben must have arrived at that decision.
Well, yeah, it's 4-4 without Tony's vote.
He needs that vote, so
They need him.
He's willing to give up his only fire token to make sure Tony's there to vote with him.
And that they have the numbers there. So I thought, oh yeah, that would make a difference. So I think that's probably the only reason Ben would do that.
And we see Tony just before the challenge, and he says he's got his 6 fire tokens. You know, when they go to the challenges, they have to get a medical check. So they each get pulled off individually. I bet you that's when they handle this kind of business. So they go over to the medical tent, and then he's able to pay off his extortion debt or whatever whatever the exchange is that's going on there happens at that point. So community challenge, it's a classic one we've seen before, but it's also another one of those stand in place endurance challenges which aren't terribly exciting. You've got this long pole, and you've got a little statue that has to balance on a piece of angle iron. So it's like just the edge of the iron, a 90-degree angle there that you got to balance the statue on. So you're using the pole to provide the balance so the statue will stay there. And if you fidget just a little, you'll knock it off.
And who goes out first?
Kim, pretty quickly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that.
We had spent time analyzing the picture, trying to think who has the best form, who's going to do really well, and we were completely wrong. We thought Kim had a shot at it, given how well she had done on the balance out in the water.
Well, I was right I thought Ben would have a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. I didn't really think Tony did, but...
So, yeah, Kim, Denise, Michele, they're out. Michele went out in the transition, rather, and then Sarah followed soon after. Ends up Sophie against the guys fighting for immunity.
Well, Nick went out, then Sophie.
Yep.
They're 32 minutes in, which is the longest that challenge had ever gone before. Yep, they did. And then...
Tony, Ben, and Jeremy in a showdown.
Yep. Ben goes, then Jeremy goes, and Tony wins.
Again, his second individual immunity.
And gets 2 tokens.
Yeah, gets 2 fire tokens.
Which
we were wondering who he was paying back, right?
Well, I'm assuming it was Ben and Nick.
Mm-hmm.
But...
at this point, because the plan was still to get rid of Jeremy.
Yeah.
So he could have voted Jeremy out without having to pay him back, basically.
Well, that was my thought. Mm-hmm. But now I'm thinking, well, but... if he's thinking maybe he's going to keep this other alliance of 4, the new alliance, then he might decide to pay Jeremy back and not pay Ben back.
Yeah.
Which would really make Ben even angrier. So, I don't know.
It's very Kim Spradlin of Tony to have these multiple options that he could pivot to. So, he's the only one we're being shown that has that kind of flexibility, really. And Tony notes that Jeremy would have won that if I didn't pay the extortion. So that
Absolutely.
that at least kept the plan, as it were, at that point alive.
But he knew who they were voting for.
Yeah, he said Jeremy's going to go tonight. Okay, back at camp, back at Koru there on day 28. Kim tells us Tony wins, makes him a big target. She's on to him. She knows he's playing him.
Well, and Kim doesn't feel she has any more options. She's got to go back and try to get in with the other group.
Yeah, seemed to work pretty effortlessly.
Well, yeah, they'll take her vote.
Yeah.
But they seemed to be sharing the whole thing around her.
Yeah, came up with a plan pretty quick and openly shared it with her.
Yeah.
So they're going to throw the majority on Jeremy, and then they'll throw 2 on Michele just in case.
Yeah, that was Sarah's idea. And the rest on Jeremy, and Kim's like, okay.
Sophie, who, unlike Adam, has a real spider sense, mentioned that there must be another idol around. She seemed to be picking up on that, at least indirectly.
I didn't see her looking for one.
No. Well, she didn't feel the need to.
Well, because she has one. But it doesn't hurt to have 2.
What did you think about that plan to go after Ben? Kim wanted to mix things up, so get her and Jeremy and Denise to vote Ben out. That was going to be their target.
And Michele. Well, I had Ben safe, so I wasn't fond of it.
You weren't so keen on that,
I wasn't keen on it, no. And I do like Ben, but...
Okay, so Kim had busted Tony for being a double agent. Do you think she sensed at all about Denise? Denise said she was feeling like a double agent, and she really wanted Jeremy gone.
Who really wanted Jeremy gone?
Denise.
Oh, well, I must have missed that.
Okay.
I didn't think she was...
Got to keep an eye on our girl there.
I guess so.
Jeremy tells us Ben is my friend, but he's annoying me now with everything he does and every noise he makes, so I'm okay with voting him out. And then we get a new plan from Tony. He decides he wants to blindside Sophie.
And why? Because he has so much power.
Time to.
He's got power.
Time to
It's time to
exercise it.
flip-flop.
Yeah.
I got power. I need to exercise this power.
If he can get Jeremy, Michele, and Nick together, it'll happen. Because there's a plan to split the vote. And they could subvert it with 4 votes against the 3-2 split.
Well, and it apparently was a good decision on his part. But I was curious at the time, why Nick? You really think you can trust Nick? I wasn't so sure about that. I didn't know how close Nick and Michele might still be or not.
Think about it this way, though. It's not me.
Yeah.
He's giving them a not me, and they put that fear into Nick and Michele. So any not me vote is going to sound good, and Nick didn't seem to hesitate too long. He said, I'll do it.
Yep.
I'm in. Sure, let's blindside Sophie. Jeremy was the hard sell, and Tony wasn't really sure where Jeremy's head was from at least the clips that we got to observe of their
Yeah, because
exchanges.
Jeremy didn't. He really seemed to not believe Tony.
Right.
And he'd believed him all along. And now when Tony's actually telling the truth, you don't believe him.
Well, boy who cried wolf.
The more he lied, you believed everything he said.
I gotta side with Jeremy a lot on that. When you know someone is pulling a time pressure game on you, and Tony did that. He told us as he describing how he was going to do it. He let it
wait to the last minute.
He let it get down to the wire, and then he made his pitch. And usually when you got someone putting time pressure on you in a negotiation, that should be a red flag that you need to pull out.
Well,
it's not to your benefit. That's a manipulation technique.
And also, all of a sudden, he's telling Jeremy that Denise and Kim are voting against him. And that's probably why he had the most trouble.
That shook him. Yeah.
That shook him, and he didn't want to believe that either. And so I think that's why he wasn't feeling very believing.
Please trust me, he asks, begs of Jeremy. And then he says, yes, go tell Michele. We need her too. So Tony didn't even pitch it to her. He wanted Jeremy to pitch it to her.
Yep. And Tony's like, well, if he doesn't, he'll be going home.
It's that simple. Tony was going to be okay no matter what. So that seemed like a pretty bold play, and it was certainly exciting to watch too.
As Sophie said, he was padding his resume. She didn't say that about him.
Not even padding it. He's really filling it out. This is his bona fides right here. So for a few minutes, I was really happy here heading into that commercial before Tribal Council because I had picked Sophie to get voted out.
Yep, you had.
And it seemed like it might come together. I wasn't super confident given Jeremy's response. Jeremy's response was very unsettling, but I thought there was potential here, so I was excited. But we headed into Tribal Council with Jeremy, Michele, Sophie, and Ben as potential targets. Another target-rich environment again.
And the person I chose, Kim, nada. Again.
Yeah. That story didn't come to fruition at all. It was a good idea.
Eh.
Okay, Tribal Council here on night 28. Probst asks her, hey, with 2 advantages and an idol played, people using all their weapons, how does that make you feel? And she's talking about how unsettling it can be, have these things played out of nowhere.
And that you should never go into Tribal Council thinking that you know the plan.
Yeah.
Though she thought she knew the plan.
Yeah. She was looking a little smug.
It's like, ouch.
At times. Ben tells us there are landmines everywhere, and there's no clue where there are.
And he's always waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy said people are just telling you half-truths.
Over and over. And then we get that resume building discussion with Sarah and some mention of potentially flashy moves. Probst asks Nick, what about bad moves? Are there bad moves? Sure, Nick says. That's one of those great Survivor paradoxes. You can overstep when you go to pull something like this off and have it backfire on you.
Jeremy tells us if he hadn't played to his advantage, he'd be over in Tyson's seat right now.
If he hadn't done his detective work like Tony and Sarah, he paid him a compliment as he thumbed his nose at him at the same time. I like that too. Now, when Sophie was talking about the girl in school who was annoying and padding out an empty resume, did you think maybe she was describing herself in any way?
I don't know.
Staying late after school to do extra work, and a straight A student, and a teacher's pet, all the things she was listing off. Thought that sounded like the voice of experience, Sophie.
And she also tells us they've had a pretty quiet afternoon and that everyone here should think they're in jeopardy.
Ben and Michele concur it was quiet for them too. Yep, Sophie declares it's a bit of a weird war. Tony says it's because of all the stress and fatigue they endured in the last tribal council. They just needed it to be calm for today. Sarah's all about the psychological warfare. She said people are changing up their games. And then she proceeded to basically describe Tony, didn't she?
Well,
a masterful blindside.
If you pull off a masterful blindside out here, that move says, I'm the best. I thought she was talking about herself.
It's what she was hoping that.
What she was hoping. She was the one going to do that. And then Tony did it.
Well, and Denise probably did it earliest in the season.
Yep, I agree.
And then we got this one coming from Tony. Yeah. Okay, time to vote. Cut to Sophie, and she held her hidden immunity idol. No action.
Idol play.
No.
I was like, uh-oh.
So we get the votes back and forth. Jeremy, Michele, Jeremy,
and
Michele,
what did you say?
Jeremy.
It's Jeremy. And I said, no.
I thought.
They're holding it back.
That it was Jeremy, yeah.
And then Sophie. I said, I told you. They're holding it back.
Here comes 4 for Sophie, and Sophie is out. And she declares, I had an idol in my pocket.
Yep.
And then she looks lost at tribal council and goes the wrong way and doesn't get her torch.
And I'm flustered. And
I don't know how to do this.
Where do I go?
Cut to Ben. Did you see that when they cut to Ben there when that was going on? He gave us a little Ben bomb. He said, boom.
Well, he got blindsided too.
He did, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's why she was so flustered. And obviously, she's never paid attention to all those people she's helped send home all season. If
I don't know
they
what that
did
was
and
about.
where they went.
Seemed like it was a little bit of acting on her part. But
I think she just got so flustered because she never dreamed it was her.
No, that's true.
That her name would come up at all.
She said it hurt when she was out there on Edge of Extinction.
Yeah, that was starting to set in, and I thought, okay, well, I thought Parvati did really well. She seems to be the comfort for everyone out there.
Oh, first in line to give a hug there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Sophie came in saying that she was, hurt or upset.
And for the first time, Sophie gets her torch snuffed. And she turns around and says, good job, guys. I did not see that coming.
And she's walking off. She said, I had an idol in my crotch.
Now I can take that idol out of my crotch.
Yeah.
And she decides, which is surprising to me, not that she would give Sarah a token, but she gave one to Kim too. Mm-hmm. What does that say?
Well, she was standing there thinking for a moment. She said 4 votes. She got 4 votes, and she was trying to think about who that was to try to make sure that she didn't give a fire token to one of those people.
So, who do you think she thinks she got the 4 votes from if it wasn't the other group?
Yeah, the other group.
No, I mean Kim, Denise, Jeremy, and Michele.
She didn't think it was the ones in her alliance, which would have included Sarah and Tony too. Yeah.
But it had to be if it wasn't. If she thought Kim voted for her, why give her a token?
Well, I don't think she thought that because Kim had come over and been a part of their
what
assigned voting block.
Who do you think she thought voted for her?
I don't think she knew for sure other than the ones that were in the minority alliance, which is how I answered your question.
Which Kim was in the minority?
No, not at that point because she had reached out. And she was part of their vote, their plan with the five votes there, the 3-2 split.
So she really had no clue about Nick or Tony probably flipping.
Yep. She's just playing it safe. She's saying, I think these two, definitely Sarah didn't go against me, and probably not Kim.
So, okay.
This was really the Tony episode, week 11, episode 11.
Oh, totally.
Was
Yep.
a celebration of Tony finding the hidden immunity idol, winning immunity, getting his way out of extortion, and pulling off what I would say now is an even bigger blindside because the stakes are higher and it was more difficult to do. Denise was able to do that on her own autonomy. She didn't need other people to pull it off. Tony had to have the buy-in of these other three to make this happen. And so I say this one, even though it's not Sandra, this one was harder to do. So even more impressive for him to pull it off on top of all the other things he managed to pull off in this 3-day cycle. That's pretty astonishing, actually. This is Tony's gameplay at the highest level.
Okay, next on, Jeremy tells us this is an ugly part of the game.
Yep, feeling's gonna get hurt.
Oh, Kim has a look in her eyes as she tells Michele it is time to blindside Tony.
She looked like she had a little bit of a tick coming on there in her left eye. It might be getting to her out there.
Well, you could tell that she was not a happy camper.
Definitely
I don't
some
know
anger.
what was going on.
Yep.
And we see Tony has now moved to a spy nest up in the tree.
He's in the treetops looking down, spying. So Tony's game is back into full classic Tony mode.
Well, and Sarah didn't hold back. She let into him and told him he'd sunk her game.
Yeah, he blew up my game, she said. I'm done. She said she's declared she's infuriated. But we've seen her do this before.
Yeah, she still seems to. She hadn't kicked him to the curb yet.
Right.
But
exactly.
we'll see if he can talk his way back around.
Well, that's definitely it was a super exciting episode. How about a JSFL update? How did people do this week?
Well, Dakota 1107 is still in first with 53 points. That's impressive.
Yeah, I already broke 50. Nice.
54 people lost their USB.
She was the number one USB after the merge, right?
Yep, she was. 179 people lost a safe point.
Ooh, that's a big owie.
27 people gained a vote off point. Congrats.
Ah, thank you.
Stacy being one. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Take your bows. Okay, and the side challengers with 51 points. Jake Kindred is in first with 48. Jeremiah, 45. Jonathan and Stacy, 44 for Drew, 43 for Carl, Parker, and Rebecca, 42 for Brandon, Cameron, Colt, Mike, Justin, and Slappy.
Oh, Slappy, that's precipitous fall there you've taken.
41 for Jack, and 39 for Chris.
Hopefully we'll be able to get back up.
And that is another week of Survivor.
Yeah, only a few weeks to go before the big finale. There was a article on EW where Dalton Ross was trying to get the details on how that finale reunion show was going to go, but Probe said they're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So they're not sure how they're going to divide it up.
Yet.
Yeah, still trying to work out the details on how to. It's really hard when you're doing a call like that,
yeah.
and I've done them for years to keep people from talking over each other, and they cut out, and
that's the worst part.
Coordinating things like that, it's tricky, and you do want to see them. It's like the plus and the pro and the con of this. When you're talking about work, you really don't need to see people on video. At least that's been my experience doing it for 30, 40 years now. Just hearing them on the phone call is fine.
But we like to see them. This is television. I want to see them.
Oh, we want to see them. Yeah, absolutely. So they're definitely gonna want to do a video call with the 20 of them, I would imagine.
Yep.
Plus Probst, and he'll do some deal where he talks to the person that gets voted out when they get voted out as they head towards the final three.
So we have 3 more weeks.
Mm-hmm. And one of those 3 is a 2-hour.
Yeah. The
6th.
the penultimate episode
May 6th.
is a 2-hour on May 6th, yes. Yeah. And then the finale after that. So
We probably don't want to dwell on it too much right now, but there's not going to be a preview for the next season.
Okay.
Because it ain't happened yet. So
Well, then they don't have to spend any time on it.
there you go.
It's like, well, our next season will be in Fiji, TBA.
Maybe. We'll see.
Probably. Or on the Universal Studio set. But we won't worry about that right now.
No. What we're looking forward to right now is hearing what you thought about this episode. Did you think Tony came off as a superstar? Did he play too big? Is it going to backfire on him? Is there going to be some serious blowback? He's the only one with a guaranteed immunity idol now, still in the game. Michele's got her 50-50 advantage, so it may be an idol and it may be not.
That's right.
But he's the only one with a hidden immunity idol at this stage. So
Yep.
we're looking forward to hearing what you thought about Week 11 and how this played out and all this Tony excitement. It was definitely the Tony show. The voicemail line's 206-350-1547, toll free 844-643-8737. The email, Joanne and Stacy Show at Gmail. You can always find all that at getsfp.com. Click on one of the episodes and then click that read more button for one of the episodes rather, and you can see all the details for how to get a hold of us down at the bottom of the page there. We look forward to hearing what you thought about this and how you think his chances are to win it all at this stage. Is he just head and shoulders above the rest? Do you think this is the guaranteed winner's move that Sarah was describing, where this is the best of the best beating the best? Excited.
It could be, but it might not be.
There's still time for the game to take lots of turns and twists.
Too many good players left to say that, really.
Yep. Yeah. So these folks are innovative, and it's great seeing Tony back in full Tony gear, and we'll see if it'll work in the last half of the game for him.
Yep.
They certainly served him well to play calm and cool there.
But if he went home next week, this would be his last hurrah.
Swan song, yeah. Could be. Looking forward to hearing what you think about that possibility, too. Who's your favorite? Who you still cheering for? Feedback's due Saturday, noon Pacific time. Keep it in that 3-minute range so we can get through them all. We've been having fantastic listener feedback shows for Season 40, Winners at War, and we'd love to have you come be a part of that. Anything you want to add?
Nope. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good one.